certainly have learnt to first ask who the director is. Obviously, the script and the character is important, but filmmaking is a director's medium, in my point of view, and you really need to be able to trust that director, work with that director, and know that that director is going to push to get the best out of you. I love to do a scene 20 different ways, but I can only play and go off in this tangent and that tangent if I'm really confident the director knows exactly what he wants from the scene and knows that he's going to get that. And you might get some surprises if you go left and right. But if that makes sense, the directors that I most like working with give you a freedom within these boundaries. It's kind of like parenting, really, because we are kids after all. And then when I'm in rehearsal, I like to collaborate. I like to talk. I like to rehearse. Some directors don't like to rehearse, and I respect that. But I'm open. I talk about my process to them. I talk about how I'm feeling. I talk about questions I have, even ones that might appear or I'm worried are stupid questions. I'll always get them out, because I think the last thing you ever want to have in front of the camera is doubt in any way, shape or form about the character you're playing, about what story you're trying to tell, about what you're trying to achieve. I genuinely like to be friendly with everyone. In the Australian film industry, everyone talks to everyone, and if they're not making fun of you, then they really don't like you. So there's a problem. And I also, when I first went to America, I noticed there was an unspoken, and it's not, people tell stories of don't look this actor in the eye and all that. I've never heard that before, but there is a slightly unwritten rule of leave the actor alone, let them do their thing. It could be about process, it could be because they're star, I'm not sure. And I always try literally on the first day to break that down, because I feel self-conscious in that environment. I'd much prefer a grip making fun of me than calling me Mr. Jackman and then saying nothing until they say, thank you, it's been great working with you. I much prefer to feel we're in it together. When I first began to get over my nerves of auditioning, I used to always go into an audition as though it was a rehearsal, more like the first rehearsal. So I would always ask the director or casting agent, whoever it was, questions. If they said, look, I think you should sit down in the chair, I'd say, I think the character would stand. It was just my way of trying to redress the balance. And so it wasn't just, you've got all the power and I'm trying to please you, but rather we're trying to work together. So that was how and that seemed to work. I often give that advice to young actors. I certainly think Wolverine was a risk for me when I first got it. Thankfully, nobody really knew who I was. I mean, in the comic book, he was 5'5" and not really the kind of personality that I am. So no one really knew that, so I got to, thankfully, just go in and audition. But I had never heard of X-Men. When I got the job and I started telling people, and when I was shooting it, is only when I started to realize the immense passion that the fans have and how important that role was and potentially what was at stake for me. I reveled in the physical side of Wolverine. I took it very seriously. I spent a long time studying animals and trying to work out ways to incorporate what had been an image on a page for 40 years and how to make that work. The art in the comic books itself was really informative. I used to some of those moves are in there, and those artists, their economy, how they can tell so much of an entire fight in maybe 8 frames, it was extraordinary. So I really drew on them, and the movement to me has always been very important. I will spend sometimes hours walking around a room inhabiting a character, and I might just start from the top down or from the feet, from the toes, right through to the top of my head, imagining how that character walks, how that character sits, how that character holds himself when they're angry, how they sleep, all that stuff, because it really informs how you play the character. I remember Ian McKellen saying to me, just because it feels uncomfortable doesn't mean it's not good. And I remember doing the first X-Men movie, I came in late, I felt a bit behind the 8 ball. I started shooting 4 weeks into filming because I was replacing the guy who was playing the role. So I came in feeling a bit behind the 8 ball, and there was a rhythm going, and I just felt a bit uncomfortable, and I I remember him giving me that advice. He goes, your stuff is good. And even if it feels uncomfortable, that can sometimes be right. I think so often, not only on film, but in life, we so want to feel comfortable, but that doesn't always bring the best results. If I look back, I think some of my more successful things, in my point of view, have been the things I've been most nervous about and probably most unsure when I began. There's something about jumping off that cliff, which means you end up going for broke and probably end up taking a few more risks, if you know what I mean. And I would say that to young actors. It's okay, be nervous. Say you're nervous. I used to, by the way, for 20 years I never did. I hid it, tried to hide it. Say it, and it's usually relieving to everyone around you. Maybe not on the 20th take, but certainly when you walk in, it's fine.